Let's
All
do it.
right. Good. All right. Kenny, blessed to have you. And thanks that you could come to my invitation.
Oh, thank you.
Yo, what's I know you're Kenny, but where do you come from? Where is your origin and where are you born?
Okay. Okay. I was born in Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, and but I was, my dad was in the military, and my mom, I have two older brothers, and we were my one of my brothers was born in Louisiana, my other brother was born in California, so we were always on the road through the army, and but I was raised in the Upper West Side of Manhattan since '72. Came back from California from a base out there, and then my mom just brought me and my brothers back. So I'm from the Upper West Side of Manhattan, right before Harlem. I like to say Harlem because I rolled around Spanish Harlem and on the west side of Harlem. So yeah, so I'm from New York City.
Okay. And you're born 66?
Yes, born in
Okay.
'66.
So how was it then to grow up in Upper Manhattan? Um, well, was there anything else to do in those time? I mean, hip hop was just evolving. It was not called hip hop, but this culture that we're living, it was just about to evolve in the late 70s. But was there anything else to do? What was there to do?
And that's the question. And it's an interesting theory and something we've been exploring over here with specific projects. Like speeding it up to around, like I remember I was into sport. I have two older brothers, so we was just into sports. And on the weekends, we went to Boy Scouts. It was so interesting. But I went to the Boy Scouts to play basketball. I wasn't really paying attention, but my brothers were deeper into it. And on the weekends, there was also a sports club from one of the scout leaders would take us to Van Cortlandt Park all the way up near the Bronx and play sports, seasonal sports, football, basketball, baseball, soccer. And so that was our weekends, school weeks, going to school, and then after school, because my mom's was working. I was the youngest, after school programs, which would be like drawing or playing basketball in the gym. I used to do a comic book club thing where we would draw superheroes and all that stuff. This is before I started writing graffiti. So I was already interested in the wording of and comic books and colors and
Uh-huh.
the anatomy of the body and drawing figures. So my mind was interestingly going in this cool direction, which would help when I met Doles and all this other stuff. So in the streets, it was the idea of getting down and just occupying your time. I've told people many times that my mom used to tell me and my brothers, yo, get out the house. Don't come back till the sun comes down. Get out of here. She would go to work. She'd like, go play. And we would. And I lived across the street from a junkyard and four abandoned buildings on 96th Street and Columbus Avenue at that time. And, it was about just being creative and trying to find things to do. Stickball, handball, Skellies, Johnny Ride the Pony, Ringalerio, street games, and, roller skating on those steel roller skate wheels on your sneaker. Uh, and then, tag no touch. So it was about stuff like that.
Uh,
It wasn't really, it wasn't there at that time, it wasn't like someone had the radio on the corner. It was just like it was really free and
Hanging.
youthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, hanging out. It was free and youthful. And I'm talking from 76, 75 to 77. I did see older guys that would hang out in front of the liquor store and they would have the radio on and they were the more cooler guys, around the time of Saturday Night Fever and all that stuff. So,
Mm.
like one of my older brothers. But that was our day. Our summers were long, and you just went out and explored. That's what it
Yeah.
was. Mhm.
But uh, there was never a question to do anything else. That there was not a career thing, or there was never an issue for you to really be an architect or
Mhm.
become a doctor or something like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I look at that time you're very
But you're
young and
young.
innocent.
Yeah.
Young and innocent, you know what I'm saying? And I have my son is young and I try to talk to him like, but when you're at that age, you're just exploring. You don't know what you really want. You know what you like, you
Mm.
know. And there were things flowing around me that existed. My mom played a lot of music at the house, and we watched at that time the music television was very specific, and it came on late most of the time. And so I knew about music, and I felt music. I already it was a part of my life, but not like I was saying, oh, I want to be a musician. None of that. It wasn't until junior high school that I started, because I used to always play on the desk, and when I had an opportunity to be around instruments, I started playing bongos and congas and stuff, but really didn't know. I mean, I didn't say I want to be a musician when I grow up. I want to be an athlete when I grow up. Maybe semi kind of like I really liked baseball a lot, and I was a pitcher, and I was pretty good, and I played little league, and then I played in a league in South Bronx also, and I kind of like felt like I was good at it. And that may have been an aspiration or a dream, to be a baseball
Yeah.
player
Yeah.
at that young age, because that's like the cool thing. I was a New York Yankees fan to this
Yeah.
day. You see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You already know. You already know. So I was very much into that. But, in
But then,
school,
then all of a sudden, this appeared.
yeah, yeah. And in school, it was just like everybody was studying, like whatever they threw at us to learn.
Yeah.
We were in the same classroom and work. But like I'm sure that many people knew what they wanted. Some people get hit and be like, "This is what I want to do in my life," and then it just takes time for others. So
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what I dreamt
But
of because I
but
was too
then
young.
the dance hit you,
Yeah,
so to say, or
it did. I think the subculture, the street hit me a little
yeah,
bit
the
differently
street. Yeah.
because I've said this before, and I'm going to keep it brief. I never aspired to be a dancer ever in my life. It's one of the things that I was most afraid of. Like I would see people dance on TV. There was a show called it was either the Electric Company or Wonderama, and at the end, it was a kids program, and kids would dance, do a dance contest and dance, kind of like you know. And I was like, man, I could never do that. And I remember this is before breaking, before hip.
Yeah,
I was
before
like, man,
b-boying. Yeah. Yeah.
and I was very shy, with girls. I wasn't that playboy dude. I had my friends were, but I wasn't that guy. So, but it was a musical thing, and it was also from graffiti, from wall writing, and being introduced to my neighborhood through Doles and my brothers and Bill Blass and a bunch of other people. This is a different thing that none of us had really like. This wasn't school, it wasn't mom, it wasn't
No one told
how.
you to do it.
And nobody would want you to do it. It was something that was taboo, and it was bad. And how they say what's bad is good is good, like the lyric
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they talk. And when you're a kid, your mom tells you don't touch that, and you fucking touch it because you're a kid, like so you want to, it was normal for me to be like, and my brother was doing it, writing, and he met Doles and a bunch of guys. He went to music and art high school, and Doles was at art and design high school, and I was at just a regular junior high school. But
Was that one of the first members that you met from the Rocksteady? Those?
no, I mean there was no rock steady.
No,
When
no,
I
but
what I
that later
no
became Rocksteady, or I mean, that was that the first person that was in that community that you?
okay, before, let's not even mention the word rock steady. Before, when I started wall writing and was introduced to that, looking at my brother in the black books and stuff, it was just writing crews. It
Yeah.
was, you were writing crews. Doles is the brother that brought the cassette tapes from the Bronx. So when I started hearing these cassette tapes before vinyl of jams, there was flash tapes. Grand was a Theodore, Mastodon, a Def Committee. Like his cousin T was lived in the Bronx, and he would frequent Manhattan and the Bronx.
Ah, okay.
And he would bring these tapes. So I started hearing these tapes. I believe it's 79, and I was just blown
Yeah,
away.
what is the then the music came to you.
Man, it's not radio music. It's so raw, and the slang and the wordplay, all that shit. What's that? An MC? Like all those words were just cool and hit. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. And I think a lot of us felt that way. You know, we were just like, this is something raw and rugged. And, you know, I mean, look, the hood is the hood, you know, but there was something about this that was musical and performative. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I would imagine what I couldn't see
Expressive.
them. I could just hear them. I couldn't see them, you know. But then, you know, I see these players in my neighborhood. There was groups like
Yeah,
the Untouchables and the Shamrock Crew. So I now going to these outdoor jams. I was like, this is what it is. Okay, we do it down here too, you know. But they were just from the tree of the, you know, the roots. You know, they were just
oh
really
yeah,
following suit what the Bronx had started with cut. I'm talking about cutting breaks and MCing. I'm not just
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about disco playing disco music. I'm talking about when
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah, yeah.
started
The
cutting
the the real,
all that
the real.
shit. That shit was different.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it starts from that moment to where, you know, we picked that up, and those was pivotal. So we started the Young City Boys. I believe it was winter of '78 or spring of '79. Me, Dino Rock, Doze, Dante. These are still my, rest in peace, Dino Rock, but these are buddies that to this day on my
yeah,
hand. These are some of the best people I know in my life. And we started the Young City Boys crew because there was gangs and stuff in the neighborhood. You know, there was the Sandman, they had the Wild Boys uptown, the Black Unicorns. We knew what that was, and my older brother and my cousin were affiliated with a lot of that. But we were younger and more, we were kind of vibrant and colorful in our own way, and not didn't have those certain situations of having familyhood and brotherhood, sisterhood. So we knew what it was, but we just wanted to start a crew. And you know, it was about putting, you know, the letters in the shirts. You know, we would go on a different approach with it. It was colorful, certain
yeah,
colors, you know. And it's definitely connected to, we could connect it, you know, you've heard the conversations with outlaw culture and tradition, and but once again, what we started was a crew. And that's when we started the Young City Boys crew. And then a few years later, that's when Legs came down. I met Frosty before Legs with the Rock City crew, Sundance, the Ortiz brothers, Charlie Rock, them dudes from 90th. And my neighborhood had its own legends and own heroes, you know.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
And Ty Fly, rest in peace, Frosty's cousin, he was with Young City Boys. He was from 100th Street. And he was like, you got to meet my cousin Frosty. And from that point, once
Yeah,
I
yeah.
met Frosty,
It
all of
just
us,
elevated, so to
it
say. I mean,
boomed.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
that's when we started the RSC chapter. That was a combination of the Bronx and Manhattan. It was around
oh
that
yeah,
time.
oh yeah. But people have seen you like from, of course, the first shot, Flashdance, Buffalo Gals, the
Hmm.
videos, and Rocksteady, of course. Later on, the videos from Rocksteady. But you also been in the Wild Style and the Beat Street movies. Do you see it now as, is it like an accomplishment that you have done that, or do you also see it as a burden? I mean, it's maybe a legacy to live up to, or
I see it as a blessing, and it's like, you know, like I said, we were going with the flow. Nobody could ever. I couldn't imagine talking to you in 2026 if you asked me that question in 1979 or 80. So, never a burden. It was a blessing, and it's like it could have been, you know, like there's a lot of people bugging out in the streets. You know, we just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and we were
yeah,
good, and we were diverse. You know, it wasn't just one-sided. Everything about what we put together was interesting, and we just got those opportunities. It could have been, and it was other crews. It wasn't just Rocksteady, but you know, Wild Style was that was the big deal. I mean,
yeah.
that was, you know, Style Wars. These moments are pivotal to, you know, the
To a lot of
direction,
people, yeah, to a lot of
to the
people, not only
and to the
Rocksteady, but
direction.
everyone who was there.
Yeah, to the direction of the culture, and
Yeah.
it's very cultural, and it's not just breaking. You know, that's
No,
what I
no,
love about it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's,
so
but
not never a burden, never a burden.
no, no, and but I mean, you're more of course, your style and what you are influenced in the beginning there was like footwork and getting down to the music, but later on it came a lot of power moves into the dance.
Mhm.
I guess it was never in the beginning, but it became more and more power. Was there something that I was want to learn that, or was it really that you felt, oh, that is not my style, or was there inside you like a competition, like that is not real breaking, or how
Well,
was the thinking inside you?
okay. So here's the thing, and this is, I love these questions because it's a misconception. Because Ken Swift has style, I have style. I have a blessing from the universe that gives me a connection with the music. Now, footwork is what I came into. That's the fundamental foundation of this art form is footwork. If you take footwork away, you don't have breaking. Now, the misconception is people say Ken Swift didn't do power moves. Ken Swift was footwork. And this is a complete misconception. And I saw an interview recently and I didn't respond to it because when I have my platforms, this is what I talk about. First of
Yeah.
all, my generation is a generation that introduced the concept of power. Okay.
Yeah.
And everybody in my time, whatever came in, we try to grab it, we try to get down with it. So my generation, we're talking about when people started spinning. We're talking about surfaces that changed and introductions to butt spins and back spins. You got your head spins, you got your hand glides, you got your turtles, you got all these different, you got your continuous back spins, you got your shoulder spins, your what people called also neck moves.
Mhm.
All of this was everything I did with all my friends.
Yeah, yeah,
And we were the generation that brought this word power or
yeah, yeah.
air into the community. This is between the late 70s into the early 80s. So that's the generation I'm from. So I did windmills, I did hang glides,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did hand spins. The footage says it all, bro, but it's just really messed up when I get put in this category like I was just footwork. Now, when the smoke clears, I always loved footwork and to this day will always speak highly on it because it's my roots of where I come from.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
everything that would evolve, I wanted. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do an exact back tuck. I wanted to do it sideways. I didn't want to do uh, I didn't want to do a Kirk Thomas flare. I was like,
no.
that's gymnastics.
Mm.
Everything in my mind was trying to be different from something because in the law of this, you have to take something and twist it. And
Mm.
if you're inspired by somebody, you can't bite. We know that. But you
Yep.
have to, if you're inspired, you got to think, well, what would I do? How would I do it? So this is where I come from. So just to put that clear, I'm glad you asked the question. Uh, I believe that everything is valid. Every generation has new introductions and elements that keeps getting sprinkled on this art form.
Mm.
So they're all valid. I say to b-boys and b-girls, use them all. Don't
Yeah, yeah.
don't
Use them all. Yeah.
don't put yourself in a category
No,
because
no.
what I
That's
all I could do was what my body would allow me to do. You understand? So when it's all said and done, Andreas, I just wanted to exist, and I knew that the generations were evolving. I wanted to just keep on looking fresh, and all I could do was what my body allowed and what I felt good doing. There were things I tried, and I was like, I don't feel good doing that.
I don't know.
And when I would see myself on video, I'm like, oh God, that looks whack. So
I am.
I just went
You
along.
need
I'm
to do
so glad.
what you're able
Yeah,
to. Yeah,
what
yeah,
you able to. There you
yeah.
go.
But also in that time, at least me as a popper, because I when you research the culture, you research the timeline before b-boying, before breaking, before hip hop, there was a really big dance movement on the West Coast, like popping, locking, and boogalooing.
Mhm,
What was via Soul Train?
mhm.
Wasn't there a movement of that in New York?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, television, like once that program, that was domestic program, that viewed in, it was a very popular show, Soul Train. And there was
Yeah,
also American Bandstand and there were music shows, but they showed the social interaction of people dancing. My mom used to watch it all the time. We would watch it on the weekends. I've talked about this for many years. Did I pay attention to the dancing when I was young? That program is the early 70s, what,
yeah, okay.
74 or
You
something.
were too young.
So no, I was like, that's my mom's stuff. My mom likes
Yeah,
this. And I wasn't on the TV saying, wow, look at those poppers and lockers. It was nothing like that, bro. I'm not gonna lie. People be fronting. But when I started, like, I mean, I knew what that was, but it wasn't what I was introduced to because
no, no.
breaking was a different thing. But when breaking it's interesting because the media took on the breaking, but the popping was already happening in New York, was New York boogie style, you
Mm.
know, electric boogie, whatever you want to. And people were doing it, you know, the white gloves, all that stuff. That's
Yeah, yeah.
that time period. There were people that weren't
I,
necessarily straight concrete b-boys and b-girls, but they were
no,
people that really liked the locking and popping, you
yeah, yeah.
know,
But
like Mr.
what
Freeze, you know what I'm
was
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah. And
Chippy D,
this
like so many
actually
people.
comes to the thing. One of the first documentaries that was shown here. It's actually done by a Swedish Danish um, documentary team. Already, I think it's done 82, but it's broadcasted 83. It's called
Okay.
Electric Boogie, and it's from New York. It's from the Bronx, and only Electric Boogie guys. None of them were famous, and it's maybe 20, 30 different people, and really good. I mean, and that was really that's why the first step here was Electric Boogie. It was much more than b-boying or breaking. The
I think
first,
it goes true with also you know, like when you think about the West Coast and their whole dance movement, right? I
mm,
mean, like Japan, you know, a lot of these people that were the big shots in the West Coast, you know, we know the names, you know, they were touring already. So, you know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there, this before breaking was even
Yeah,
exposed to the media.
also in France. They were in France and
Yeah,
also
it
in
was a
London.
big
So of
deal.
course, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they already have put the seeds in the ground. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, in New York, like I think that it's unfortunate, but the reality is breaking was just so different and radical. And that moment in time with, you know, socioeconomic situation in the streets, you know, that was given so much exposure, and a lot of other dances like popping and locking and also rocking or freestyle, you know what I'm saying, or rock
yeah,
dance, you know, a lot of that
yeah,
was overlooked and kind of got jumped over because it was so visually physical and crazy,
yeah.
you
With the
know.
breaking b-boy.
It was just a different thing to explore with media. So it's unfortunate because those are great dances. I love all the
Yeah.
dances that come from the
Now, now,
communities, you know.
now when I've interviewed people here in Sweden, and I started to remember that we also looked a lot in the beginning. We looked a lot on the kung fu movies. Was that also a flick in New York? That the old Bruce Lee movies, that you got inspiration from that?
Well, you know, what's interesting is that those movies are shot in Hong Kong. Shaw Brothers Films, Golden Harvest, a lot of these companies, you know, and what's the crazy reality is that these films were being shown at some business arrangement to where the US was showing these films on a regular basis on television and in movie theaters in the 70s. Bruce Lee had a big impact on a lot of things too, with you know, Enter the Dragon and all, you know, all the movies that were at that time period. So that was something that was, you could see them at in your house on a Sunday,
Mm.
a kung fu movie, and that's what
Yeah,
we would do. Or you know, and when I got older, then you go to 42nd Street, you know, and you go see three movies for $2.50,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and it became that was parody slash bugging out shit. You know, we didn't be like, yo, let's go look at them, and but you know, it was so interesting to watch it, the subtitles, the
yeah, yeah. The
overdubbing,
whole yeah,
everything is
yeah.
just
It was
hilarious
funny.
and fun.
Yeah,
And at the same time, it's very physical. So yeah, I mean, I think we were all, I mean, Frosty is one of the guys we used to, I mean, it's, oh, by the way, in the picture behind you,
yeah,
that's Frosty Doze and Ty Fly is with the red vest, just to mention. So that's Frosty and that's Ty Fly, and that they're cousins,
yeah,
and that's how
yeah,
I
yeah.
met. Yeah. But long story short, Frosty was the most animated, loud dude in the movie theater. And, you know, it was just that character. You know, you could see a lot of that character in his dancing. So we were
Yeah,
kind of subconsciously inspired in different ways, comedy wise.
yeah,
I'll challenge you, you know, all the
yeah.
concepts of a dude getting beat up and coming back for revenge. You know, like those movies were all kind of like very similar stories. And that the master teaches the young student, and he comes back and whips all the gangsters'
Yeah.
asses. Great films. So yeah, Kung Fu cinema was huge in the city. I did an interview called Challenge of the B-Boy Masters, which is I can send you a link on it. It was with Eric Pellerine, who studied Kung Fu cinema, and he's also a martial artist. He interviewed me 15, 20 years ago with Track Two and Little Lep and a couple of other brothers. And but he breaks down that everything you asked about, he does it, he breaks it down in a way more in-depth
Yeah.
detail about that experience with Kung Fu cinema, Hong Kong, and motion picture industry.
But one thing that I had personally, like a question is like, um, you when Rocksteady got famous, you're only 6 in that setup. Like here, I found it actually this, the up rock
Got it?
thing.
Right?
It's only 6 guys or
Mhm.
5 guys and 1 girl. Was it controversial and jealousy from the other Rocksteady members because you were a big crew?
Well,
You
I
got
mean,
the fame, you got the records and movies and tours and everything that came with that. Was there a big jealousy around the other guys, or?
well, if there was, and I'm sure there was, and they have spoken and have said something, that will exist. I can't speak on other people.
No.
What we did was a project. That was a simple project, and that was on behalf of Lady Blue, and that was just putting together this idea of this concept uh, to do this song. So there was a lot of people, but a lot of things were shifting in the streets. A lot of people were going different directions. I have this question was answered to me, asked me 4 days ago. Same question. So me, I'm going with the flow. I was a wild child. I was just like, wherever we at, we gonna go. And me and Doles,
I'm
like they
down.
put it together. No, they put it together as a package for a project, and it was about business. That was
Yeah,
about
yeah,
creating
yeah, yeah.
this single, and we didn't even know. I didn't know. They said we're gonna go do a singing lesson in Boston, and we went up there, and it was me, Baby Love, Doles, Kuriaki, and Buck, just us. We did that. Hey, you know, uh, thing, like kind of like at that moment to where it became structured and got put together professionally by Lady Blue and her brother. Uh, and they wrote the lyrics, they did the music.
Yeah,
So it was, and it was a British woman. She was
yeah,
she had
business.
a vision to do
Yeah,
this
vision.
thing with
Yeah,
this, and she needed Baby Love. So
yeah, of
Baby
course.
Love wasn't the baddest B girl in the street by a long shot. Was she cool? I knew her since she was her brother's Andy from Young City Boys. This is before Rocksteady Crew. So I'm already connected with Baby Love and these people. This is my neighborhood, mixed with Buck and Goody and Legs. So it was a mixture. We went with the flow. None of us imagined that it would become what it became. So I'm sure there's people that were saying, you know, damn, why wasn't this dude in it? Why wasn't that guy? But when it's business, it's business.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was too young to really pay attention. I was just going with the flow. That's me. I can't speak on Doles or
No, no, no,
Legs
of course.
or
But
Cootie and
I,
Buck. I
I
was I was
understand.
wilding B at that time, straight up. I was wilding in the streets, man. Lucky that shit came about because I would
Yeah,
have been in trouble, bro.
yeah, yeah.
Trust me. I'm being
But
honest with you.
yeah, but there is actually one thing that I now, um, maybe it's not your question, it's not addressed to you, but one thing that I think was a little bit strange that no one brought Mr. Freeze into it because Mr. Freeze was already in Flashdance and he was a popper. It's totally different style than the B-boys. And if you want to mix it, you have a girl, you should have a popper and maybe all the B-boys. But he was not there. Do you know why
Nope,
in that
don't
time?
have no
Because
idea. You got to ask him.
yeah, yeah,
And trust me, I popped never nowhere near as good as Freeze. Those popped, we all popped in all those videos. So the popping was there. But
yeah,
it could have been Freeze, it could have been Wiggles, it could have been Fable, it could have been
yeah,
anybody.
yeah,
So I can't answer those questions for you.
yeah,
And you know what? It would have been dope to have Freeze in there, of course. It would have been dope to have Frosty, everybody in there.
yeah, yeah.
But that's not, I have nothing to do with that shit,
No, no, no,
you
no.
know? And anybody that tells you that disrespects that shit, oh, that's fucked up, man, at that age in the streets of New York
Yeah, yeah,
City, that opportunity came, you would take it. Nobody can front.
yeah,
They
yeah,
they can call it corny and stupid. Yeah, that song sucked. But guess what?
yeah. That's
Anybody would have been like, okay, what, where?
yeah.
You gonna pay me? All right, let me show off. Let me get down. So it's an interesting conversation, and there was also some tones, some racial tones. They were like, why isn't that black person? And like, so there's a lot
Uh-huh.
of questions,
Yeah.
a lot of questions. And but unfortunately, like you would have to really talk to Lady Blue.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
or Legs. I don't know who. Like, I wasn't behind the
Yeah.
scenes with
No,
a
no.
with a pen and paper structuring out this idea.
Yeah.
So those are the people that need to be sat down with and asked, hey,
Oh, yeah.
why was this way? Because they
I
would
was
be able
just
to answer
curious.
these questions. Yeah, no, everybody's kind of
And
curious.
and all the other fellow crews that I mean later on when I started '84, I didn't know. I only know New York City Breakers and Rocksteady Crew, of course. But now we found it out: Bronx Rockers, Dynamic Rockers, Floor Masters. You know, was and a lot of other crews. Was there more competition between you, or was it more friendly? I mean, we have seen the old battles, but maybe it was friendly. I don't know. Or
A battle's a battle. You know what I mean? When we battled Dynamic in Queens, I didn't know those people. I met them
no,
briefly a couple of times by going out to Queens. I mean, this is really early when I was YCB. This is when I first met Legs, and and Frosty was like, "Yo, we're gonna go out to this roller skating rink." You know, I met this dude named Crazy Legs, and we're gonna go out there. And then to go out there, and then all of a sudden I'm battling Crazy Legs, and Little Crazy Legs is battling Nelski, and I'm over there like caught off guard, like I didn't even know there was a setup. You know what I mean? But I did my thing, and then soon after that, that's when Legs told Frosty, "I want you and Kenny to be, I'm starting
down.
this second generation, and I want you and Kenny to be vice presidents." And Frosty came to me and asked me, and I was like, "Damn, Frosty's like a few years older than me," and I'm like someone that I really looked up to. I was like, "Damn," and I was kind of like, "Why are you asking me for?" I was a little bit like, "Damn, man." I was like, "Whatever you think, Frosty," you know what I'm saying? And like we were all excited to break at that time. So the battles were kind of like battles. It's like in a battle, you're not really trying to be friendly because it's so much street level kind of attitude and machoism behind it. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to,
Yeah.
your body language is like, "Yo, I'm good too," like, so all of that, you can be friends with people, and you could be like, you don't have to be a thug and a hard rock and a gangster behind, within that, which, we became friends. I met George and Victor and a lot of those guys. They were cool, you know what I'm saying, from Dynamic. Floor Master, same thing. Like if you don't know, you get set up. Michael Holman set up that Floor Master battle with Rocksteady. Like I knew a couple of them, but we just went in there freestyle with our group. They went in their group, and we action, boom, DJ with that bam, bam, cut it up, and we went at it. That footage is there too.
Yeah.
So it's when you look at a battle, man, it's an exchange, and it's like it's not a joke. So it could seem safe as long as no one gets punched in the face and no one gets jumped, you know what I'm saying? Which happened a lot in my experience outside of the motion pictures and the films.
Yeah.
But, we didn't just battle those crews. Those are the crews that became popular. Everywhere we went, when we used to go look for girls and go to different neighborhoods, I'm
Yeah.
hanging out with some crazy dudes, and they saying, "Come on, let's go." And then we knew we could dance and show off. That got us into trouble. I battled a lot of crews and people that I didn't know and didn't know what they had. I didn't know what moves they had. But in that environment, if you trying to make a name and you're trying to stand up for yourself, you're gonna break. So
As soon
a
as the
lot of those
music put on,
situations,
then yeah.
no, and a lot of those situations were violent. You know, a lot. I'm not gonna talk about it too
No, no,
much, but a
no.
lot of people were jealous. People would be like, "Yo, you trying to dance against my friend?" These are not dancers, not b-boys and b-girls. These are dudes just watching.
Yeah.
And if you go in their neighborhood and you try to be slick, somebody might just snuff you from the back, and like
Yeah.
not everybody was a b-boy. So the good thing about New York City Breakers, Floor Masters, all of us, Dynamic, in our exchanges, we were considered like the quote unquote professionals that were getting those opportunities, to be a part of an industry. We were just kids from the street,
Yeah.
so we also kind of like became more, refined and, became semi-professional in our own way at that time, even though we were still living in the streets on
And
the block. I was
it's
still doing the crazy shit. But
it's a little
it's friendly now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
back
yeah,
then it
yeah.
was,
It's a little funny because nowadays we talked about it with some friends, actually with some of the guys that you met from Throwdown. I mean, in those days we were kids and we were looking up to you, but you were also kids. We were looking up. Our idols was kids. So it's a little bit fun that, I mean, this culture in those days were really that we were looking up to street kids. Uh, and I just think it's a little bit fun compared to a lot of other things where you maybe look up to an artist or you're looking up to a big football or soccer player or whatever. I mean, it's just fun to hear that
yeah.
you also
And,
didn't
and,
know.
And here's the great part about it, because the same, I'm looking up to Jazzy J and Bam and Herc and all these dudes, Theodore, and they're kids too. So it's not that far. The apple don't fall far, and it's, we're just like a leaf from a tree. The same way you looked up to us when we was kids, I was looking up to them when they was kids. They were young. They were
Yeah,
young geniuses. They were
yeah,
the
yeah,
geniuses that created this, this beautiful culture.
yeah,
So I can identify with you when you
yeah.
say that.
I have this during those years. I mean, it's really fast development of the whole music, hip hop music. Now we can call it hip hop music, but back then, I mean, from disco, funk, party rap, and then later on a little bit like electro, faster music,
Mhm.
and then it, like all of a sudden, in the mid 80s, it just turned into slower beats, conscious rap, boom bap, and then later on West Coast. This difference of music in 10 years, it must have also made a lot of impact of the dance, because you dance to the music. Nowadays we have b-boy music, then you dance to b-boy music. You have electro music or popping music or locking music. But back then, I mean, you could not go to a party or a jam and ask for b-boy music. They
Mhm.
it must have done a lot to the dance, or
Well,
what. I mean, you had rocking from the beginning, and then you develop the dance, and then it got faster, and then all of a sudden, I would say, it turned up to hype
Mhm.
in very short time. When you look back at it, in some years, it went from all this to boom bap and hype.
Yeah. And that is, see, that's why the experience with those cassette tapes and seeing and hearing what actually the art is, you know, I understood. And Pee Wee Dan says this, like, I haven't seen him in a long time, but he uses the term recording artist production when the business of this came into play and
Mm.
records being created. This is what changed the whole direction of a lot of things. Now, and we were still, as B-boys and B-girls, we would get down to a lot of, we used to get down to God Made Me Funky, Headhunters. If you look at the movie Wild Style, that's
Yeah, yeah,
that's not like hardcore, but that was the whole shit. That's what the DJ played. So
yeah.
we were so excited to get down that we learned how to adapt to tempo. It wasn't about high speed shit. So this whole new kind of progression. Now there was fast breaks like I Can't Stop. You know what I'm saying? Uh John Davis, Monster Orchestra, they would dance a really quick rhythm, and that shit would pick up the tempo. And a lot of times the DJs, you know what I'm saying, when they understood that, they understood how to bring that tempo up for the B-boys, because it wasn't a b-boy night at that time. It was maybe two records played that would you could break to in the
Yeah.
late 70s and early 80s. It was a party, and it was a variety of music, mostly a lot of disco, funk, but the DJ would play Apache or Dance to the Drummer's Beat. That's when people broke. When that shit
Yeah.
stopped, nobody broke. So with with
I
with the rap production, with the industry moving in, you know, yeah, everybody's excited about these poets, these rhythmic poets, these
Yeah.
MCs, masters of ceremonies, and they're having these stories to be told, and it was exciting for the whole community. But there was a moment in the 80s where it got really watered down and really whack,
Yeah.
and it started, and this is when the media kind of was like trying to treat it like it was going to disappear and it was a bad, because it was a rush of a lot of industry trying to push music on people. There was a lot of good rap, but there was a lot of bad rap, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that changed. So how do you think that feels going to a party? You hear that shit, you're not going to break half that. So
No, no.
it does affect the dancer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not easy that time sometimes. Uh, did you try? I know that you did, but did you do anything others? Did you continue doing graffiti, or did you did other things in the culture?
Absolutely. I see myself as a hip hop practitioner, but basing it upon, when I use the word hip hop, after it's being coined at that in the
Yeah.
80s, You know, the elements of what would become hip hop existed in the 70s. We know this, all right? So, but me, my generation, that's we had a message, you know, that hip hop was a thing. You could have a word to name what everything was, you know, peace to the Zulu nation. So my whole thing is that, you know, when I came into the game, it was war writing, man. That shit was amazing to me. And I told you about those comic books. I felt
Yeah.
like I was already connected when I saw the black books with those in them. When I would walk the street, I wouldn't look at tags and stuff, but all of a sudden seeing these colors and this is what this is what kids do. Like brothers, like my brother doing this with. Then all of a sudden I started paying attention to my surroundings more like that, and I got really into writing. And then right after that, it was DJing. See, because the thing was when those brought the tapes, his cousin Slimmy and also his cousin T, they were telling him, yeah, this is how they do it. You get a turntable, you got a turntable, you get a mixer. So those was already making those moves. He used his father's turntable. He bought a Gemini up and down mixer, little tiny one, and he got a Techniques. I think it was a D1 or a B2. This is 7980. And that's when we started trying to figure out what those records were on those tapes. So then I started DJing, to answer your question. And right after that, I started rhyming. Me and Doze was rhyming. We were like, yo, trying to rhyme and imitate. Furious 5 MCs is one of my favorite groups because it's one of the first groups that I heard. And they were nasty, nasty, nasty to this day. One of my favorite groups of all time. And the way they would harmonize and come in and out and the things they were saying, it was just like so different and slick. I was immediately attracted. The last thing I seen was the breaking. That's the last element I saw. So to this day, on behalf of your question, I do all that shit. I still do everything else. I just don't ride on trains. I don't walk the street tagging my name, but yo, man, my whole black book's right there in the corner. I don't know if you can see it. Like I got black books, and you know the kid is hip hop, man. You know it's never gonna change.
No, that's nice.
I call myself a big kid, man, because I'm still like a youngster. You know, just loving this culture. It's fun. It's fun shit.
And now something that I think being here, but also when I try to look at the New York scene, that was there a difference of the rap community and the b-boy and graffiti community? Was it really a community together, or was it that you were hanging out only with the b-boys and the rappers was hanging out with the rappers, and or was it really a community together?
Well, a jam is a jam, and that brings all that together, right? So a jam is the thing that brings that all together in its own way. Now, you know, a lot of MCs didn't break on the floor. You know, a lot of B-boys went MC. Me personally, you know, like I was down with all that. I wanted to be a part of all that in my own way. But at that time, the MCing thing and the DJing was the backbone to everything. You take that out of it, you don't have this culture. It's the music, it's the beat, it's the drum, it's the word. This is powerful. And, you know, everything within that, you know, through breaking and writing, you know, and graffiti, whatever people want to call it, we could see the connections to all of that artistically, you know, for having the freedom of saying something the way you want to say it or do it. So, you know, I think because of the radio stations grabbing onto it so much, it was more rap oriented, and they didn't really see it as a full community. They didn't acknowledge writers. And if they acknowledge a breaker, they might acknowledge one person to go to Hot 97 and speak, you know. So the whole rap community only knew about one breaker or two, you know. And this is a big deal. People don't talk about this, man. But, you know, as a crew, you know, we were a headlining crew. We were on stations before all this shit. We were on WHBI Newark with Africa Islam and the Zulu Beat. We was in the studio, you know, we were bubbling in the streets and we were battling people. And when we started the New York City rap tour, all of that, those recordings, you know, they were playing recordings on WHBI. This is prior to, you know, these big radio stations getting their platforms and doing it. So we were b-boys in the radio station talking about what we do and
talking about what you were doing on the streets,
writers too. People would be guests in the studio. It was all of us. We were doing writing, dancing, DJing, MCing. So I think with the big radio stations, they have agendas, you know, and it's about selling records and it's about radio play, and they have an audience and they want to keep
listeners.
Yeah, there you go. So I think that had an impact, and I think a lot of dancers resented that. I had friends that I grew up with. They were like, "Fuck that shit." that MTV rap shit, because they were also saying like a lot of that wasn't really paying homage to the whole culture. You know what I'm saying? They were just using rap as this
Oh, yeah.
television, this media direction, and it worked, and it was beautiful. I mean, I loved it, but
Yeah.
I understood people's other opinions on it.
Oh, yeah. Mm. Well. Anyway, we're coming to the 90s, and I know that there was a down period in New York, also there, uh, like all over the world, in the end of the 80s. But I know that I met you in 93 in Germany, and I know that it impacted you. But can it come from you? That what was the feeling? How come that you came to Europe, or how come that this that you were back onto it?
Mhm. Well, once again, see, when you live something, it's not a off and on switch where you leave it and drop it. To this day, you know, I'm Kenny, and this is something I value in my life because I've always just been true to what I feel. So in the 80s, when everything went crazy and when the crack epidemic came and the streets got hot and people getting murdered and going to jail beyond belief, it did affect the community in its own way. When the media downplayed breaking and tried to say it was a fad, and they were doing
Mm.
comedy programs would say, "Oh, the breakdance hospital," and all that. If people were trying to use comedy
Yeah.
to disrespect it,
Yeah.
when all of that had an impact on a bunch of people, and the impact it had on me, it made me angry because
Yeah.
I still was a b-boy. Like no matter what would happen in the late 80s, if Apache came on, no matter where I was, I always broke. It's a lifestyle. It's the way I live. It's not, oh, it's hip now. It's cool to do that. I didn't give a flying F. Who cared? When I felt it, I got down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. It was just a thing. It's like hard to explain. So, but yeah, it did have an impact on the clubs and the communities. The clubs weren't really trying to cater to, having people, get dirty on the floor or like start a fight because it's a battle. I think there was a shift in New York City with all of the details around what was happening in so many different areas, right? Um, so like through that, I got into a lot of trouble. People know what I've been through, man. I went through a lot, and I'm knock on wood, thankful to be here. Uh, and a lot of us did. So, there was a few members from the crew, what I'm saying, that passed away,
Mm.
Buck Four and Kuriaki,
Yeah.
plus Kippy D, plus, there was like a lot of people went through some craziness. Um, and it was us linking up with Electric Company, which was Magnificent Force, which was Wiggles and Fable in them.
Yeah.
They had already been, me and Legs bumped into them, and they were like, "Yo, we want to," they heard about these, Buck and Cootie and all this other stuff and the turmoil, the streets, and they were like, "Yo, we want to do this, we want to do this thing." And at the time, uh, Wiggles and Fable and Mr. Twister, Lacatron John, Charles Sanchez, uh, who was it? This other homegirl was, I forgot her name. They were doing these kind of vignette theatrical kind of presentations with popping and breaking and all this other stuff. And they did a couple of performances at the Criterion Center. And if you talk to Quickstep, he can give you more insight on this because
Yeah.
he was one of the people that there was a couple b-boys in there. Um, but when we linked with them, you know, that's when we started writing this story, which will become a play called So What Happens Now? And
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
That's right.
going into the late 80s. So this this coming back and being, like a lot of us, like I said, everybody kind of got kicked around, man, and had to get real jobs and, live
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. That's.
The breaking shit died. They kicked us to the curb after that record. So a lot of us got into crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? You know
Yeah.
how the streets work. You got to
Yeah.
keep that hustle on. You want to keep the fresh tracksuit. You want to keep
Yeah.
the gold chain. That money
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
coming in like that. So a lot of us had to make those adjustments. And some people took the wrong route, including
Yeah.
myself with a lot of that. So when that happened, to answer your question, that had a huge change in the shift in the direction of how we felt about, an art that was being neglected and kind of like the streets that were just going haywire. So we wanted to talk about that, and that play was really powerful to start this new surge of creative ideas and storytelling, and it was
Oh yeah.
wonderful. And it was rhythm technicians and rocksteady crew. We combined to really put
Yeah,
that
yeah,
out,
yeah.
and it was a big deal. And that's the spark. So in the '90s, that created that spark. We
Yeah,
got
yeah.
exposure. We got a little exposure from the media, and there were people that were like, "Wow, this shit is dope."
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, Kenny, I just need to pause now
Okay.
because hang on. It's a little bit I will cut this
Mhm.
back
Okay.
again. But anyway, then you came to Germany, and I know that I read it, and I know also because I talked about it to you and the other guys that, and also to me actually, the whole European scene was really because we're really in the north of Europe, so we don't know really what's happening in Central Europe. So it
Right.
was also a big impact for us guys to see this from Ballascord and Actual Force and all these guys. It was a big impact, but it has also it must have it been so also for you guys.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I mean, look, we were excited, man. There was opportunity. You know what I mean? Like we didn't imagine. Like I was working at a paper and pulp manufacturing company. I was behind a desk. I was working at a television station. Life was different for a lot of us. Even though the culture was always within us,
Yeah,
we were excited. We saw a surgence of people. You know, different countries. We're like, whoa, they're running with this shit hard, and they respect the full culture. So we were excited about that. We wanted to be a part of that. And come and share, stories and art. So we were excited that people grabbed the torch in many different countries and ran with it. And so that's a good thing.
um, and I know that you met the other Swedish guys here from Throwdown. I mean, Freeze, Nico, Jerker, and them. And you were also here in Sweden to see them. Is there anything that you remember especially about anything there? Because it's like a Swedish pod.
Well, I remember I think one of the first times I saw him was in Hanover,
Yeah,
and it was at some Clean Jam, or I think I
Clean
have a
Jam or
flyer.
Spring Jam. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think I have a flyer, and it's a big venue, and I think it was me, Twister, a lot of us that were combined, RT rhythm technicians, Rocksteady. We were out there, and
yeah. That's right. It was
when
not
I
only
when
Rocksteady,
I
it was Adesla and them guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you go, there you go.
yeah,
So what stood out also was like in the beginning a lot of people were apprehensive and people standing around, and it was a big space, but then like what I remember is them dudes just started going in. They weren't waiting for anybody to break, they started breaking, throw down. And I was like, oh snap, these dudes got style, you know what I'm saying? They dressing, they understand the fashion, because a lot of people look like clowns to me
yeah,
personally, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, man, but
yeah, yeah.
I gotta keep it 100, and that's everybody's choice to dress the way they want. But B-boy, back in the days when you see someone, you knew there was a B-boy automatically. And I like that they had a sense of style and fashion, and they were dope on the floor, and they were unique individually. That's what I liked.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
cool. I mean, that's. I just turned my camera off because it's still a little bit strange about the video.
Oh, the connection.
Yeah,
Oh man, it's not on my side, correct?
I don't know.
Uh,
It's all over to US.
did it start like this, or it just started happening like this?
No, it's the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Hmm. Huh.
I don't know, but I mean, I hear you clearly.
Yeah, because I had recently just done this last Saturday for a little dance thing, and I noticed there was this choppy
Yeah, yeah.
connection after like an hour and a half. So maybe it's I think it's about restarting a link
Yeah,
sometimes
could be.
because
Should we try?
I mean if you can't hear me and the words are chopped, it doesn't make
No, no,
sense.
no, no. But now it works fine. So it's
Oh,
funny.
so we're good.
Yeah,
Okay,
we try again.
there we go. There we
Well,
go.
anyway, about the Swedish trips, you were here for the Swedish Championships and then some other jams. Um,
Yes.
and now it's long time. Time flies. But
Mhm.
what is your uh, memories from that?
It was so, traveling and we traveled in the 80s and stuff, and it was what it was, but we were really bringing the culture to a lot of these countries. But to go back and travel where people were conscious, man, it was just exciting. It was, artistic, and it's like, going to places where people didn't really speak English, and but you spoke breaking, you know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
understood
yeah,
each
yeah,
other,
yeah,
so to me it was that's the power of the culture, that it unifies people through art and freedom of expression. So
yeah.
to
That's
me, that what was exciting about it, man. It's just like meeting new friends, going. I used to go to people's houses and have dinners with their families. I was like, yo, this is real, some crazy shit. But
yeah,
we were at that point consciously, like it was all right. We weren't spoiled little bitch asses, be like, nah, I need a hotel with it. I need
yeah, yeah,
first
no,
class flight. We were just like, we were going freestyle, man. And it was like a human
yeah, yeah.
type of thing that was real cool. That's what I miss. And
Yeah, I
it's,
talked to both Sandro and Alex,
yeah.
Renegade
Hmm.
here. It's like,
Hmm.
I mean, that's like a dream come true. We have Kenny here. We have him
Hmm.
in our house. It's incredible. I had
But
Pop and Taco by my parents' house. It's,
that's
you don't,
huge.
yeah, it's
That's huge.
so it's funny to have those memories, and then you have been able to do that, because I think it's a little bit lost now, because now it's the culture is not. I don't know. Maybe it's there somewhere, but sometimes I have the feeling that really need to have so big venues, so many people,
Mhm.
big hotels, and it's not that familiar anymore. But
Yeah, it's a big change. And like when they say the term broaden your horizons, right? Like
mm,
I've heard that term many times, but those experiences are priceless. That you can't pay for that. You can't go, you're not going to get that in a hotel. So with me, it taught me, the traveling taught me about the world and taught me about people. And it taught me so much about how we're all the same people. Like it wiped away a lot of my prejudice and my stupid ass growing up in the hood thoughts. You know, I was taught about other cultures and the way people lived and how they went in their home and what they ate and how they, like all that
yeah,
shit is priceless. That's
yeah,
some
yeah,
shit that teaches you about the world. And that's why I try to tell my kids, I'm like, they're not kids anymore, but I'm like, yo, get out there, man, get out to the world, go see the world, meet people, because it's empowering and
yeah.
it's calming, and when the world is going haywire and shitty, those are the things that, you never forget.
Speaking of that, what's your family life looking like? I mean, now you said kids, but
Yeah, yeah, they're
so,
grown up,
so you have some
my
kids,
yeah, my
but
oldest daughter, my oldest daughter's in New York. My youngest daughter's in New Jersey. She got married a couple years back. My son is the youngest. He's 23, and he's in,
okay.
in New York, and I'm out here in LA. But they're living their life, man, and it's, they're doing their thing, and they're safe, and that's all that
Are
matters. And
anyone of them into hip hop somehow, or
I had my daughters in dance since they were very, very young, and like from started with Caribbean cultures. I had them in bomba, salsa, ballet,
ah,
uh, jazz, tap. I had them in the schools, some of the schools in New York. But when they were like late teens, they were like, Dad, we don't want, because that was my thing, taking them to the dance classes,
yeah,
me and
yeah,
their mom, on the weekends. That's how we had to, if it wasn't soccer and some sports or whatever, because they played soccer, they did taekwondo too. But the thing is that we had to keep them occupied. These are two girls. This is before my son was born. So, this is my pride and joy, our
yeah,
pride and joy. So it was about keeping that. But they were like one day, Dad, we don't want to take dancing anymore. And I was like, then they were good at it. Both of my
mm,
daughters were really good at dancing. Not really necessarily breaking,
no, no, but
but they were good at it, but they just moved on.
what
They were
what
good
do
at
they
choreography.
what do they think of you, as their father is like one of the key figures in this culture? I mean,
I think they got it. I think they were tickled. You know, when I used to take them, they were very young. When I would take them to Jam on the Groove, when we had a theater in New York City, that was a, you know, they were like, wow, this. They were sitting in an audience of people, and I think, you know, they were very young, but at the same time, I think they're tickled about it when they reminisce from all that. I don't know how they feel sometimes. I know they're pretty proud, I guess, you know.
yeah, I mean, you
Mhm.
accomplished a lot. So, um, but all these years in the culture, I mean, you've been, I would say, from 90 to 110% into it, more than 40, almost 45 years or so. Is there anything that you regret that you haven't done, or what would be like a dream scenario of your career now, if you would, if you were, what do you want to achieve more?
But you know, I mean, look, time has wings, and we're not getting any younger, bro. What I want to achieve is just, you know, finding a comfortable place with art and staying healthy. That's
Yeah.
it, because then I can do art. Right now, it's frustrating because I want to break, but I can't. It's just it's I'm gonna keep hurting myself. And that's the hard part. And you know, I'm not gonna stop until I make that decision. Good thing is that I could rock, and the rocking
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
as doesn't take a toll on the body. So, you know, I don't have any regrets, man. You know, I think that I've danced a lot longer than most people,
yeah,
even with my injuries. Because there's people I met that had certain injuries, it ended in the 20s and 30s. They couldn't go on. They were like, nope, you know, it was career ending shit. So, as much injuries as I've had a lot of them, like many B-boys. I don't like to talk about it, but now it's the reality sets in to where, you know, the wear and tear is there, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel young, I feel strife, I feel energetic, and I feel creative. Um, but because I can't break the way I want to break right now, it's frustrating, you know, because I don't like to look whack. You know what I mean? I want to when I do a judge solo, I don't want
Uh,
to look like I suck. You know what I'm saying? So that's the hard part. And you know, everybody's
uh,
gonna get to that point. All these young cats out here, everybody young gets old. I said this 30 years ago.
yeah.
Everybody young gets old. So it's just like ride it while you can. So no regrets. I think uh, today at this point, you know, it's about this. It's about sharing these memories and telling these stories. This to me is important. That's why I didn't hesitate when you asked me. It's about education. You know, I've been teaching a lot. You know, I lecture a lot, and those are the things that I think have balanced out the idea of me not being able to dance as much. I can still talk about the art and the history of hip hop culture, not
Mm.
just breaking. I could talk about my experience as a
Yeah, yeah,
practitioner
because your
in the
experience
culture.
is the whole culture. Yeah,
Yeah, and I when I do lecture, I talk about things within the art, not the surface things. I talk about the details, like you know, the tools of the trade, you know, with all the elements. Thank God that I had elders above me. You know, I've been blessed to meet the masters, man, the gods of this shit. But I never thought I would meet Kool Herc and all them dudes that
no,
I hear
I mean,
about. Yeah,
like
I
this,
never
you know,
thought.
the freshest kids
Yeah, yeah.
thing. I mean, I guess you're one of the um, key key figures to this, or
Yeah, I was in there for a minute. Yeah, a
yeah,
quick
yeah,
minute.
okay.
It's a good film. Yeah,
Mm.
that was Israel Brenner. Yeah, Israel Brenner.
Well, but because this is like also one of my questions, like it brings into this now a lot of the older people in the culture is no longer with us, like last week or 2 weeks ago, Bambada and JDL from Crash Crew,
JDL,
one of
rest in peace.
my favorite crew, I mean my favorite rap group, and also dancers some years ago, Float, and you know, sometimes it can be like last man standing, and maybe then you feel that, oh, I need to put one, maybe not last, but the last part of the,
Mhm,
to put the mark to the future. And what could
mhm,
that be? Because now it's such a impact of the sport, b-boying
mhm,
sport. We moved from the dance floor to the stage, and maybe this is something that what can I do to prevent or to give my feeling to it?
The one thing I learned, because I was very stubborn, we were very radical in the 90s. There's a lot of the events we would do panels and be barking about the culture vultures, and we've always been radical. But as I matured and aged, I kind of started looking things in different angles and understanding that evolution is real and things do evolve and generations change. And this could be this art can still, it's always been on with the stage and the underground, so it could still share that space. I understand that, people call breaking a sport. Hey, that's what you want to say. That's peace. You know what I'm saying? Like, run with that. I have my experience, which I'm going to be strong felt about. Like I'm always going to speak on behalf of an art and an art that, is very, very powerful for young people. So when I see people approaching it in a sports perspective, all I can do is just watch it evolve. But I do have my platform and I do have my stage. And this is that stage. This is that stage. This is where I can say, peace to that, man. Respect, man. It's not my thing, but peace to that. Push your bar hard, man, and do the best you can. Go for it. And I said that.
It's a good philosophy, I think. It's both for you, but also for the culture, because you can also not dig yourself down and say, oh, it was better before, because you have to go on, flow with the flow, go with the flow.
And it's funny because I was talking to Poppin' Peters, like one of my idols.
Yeah.
I was talking to him years back, and he was like, yeah, man, he was saying that how every generation kind of like the elders kind of like, I don't like this new music. This is the real shit. Like every generation is going to do that. And I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then like years and years later, I'm like, damn, I'm sounding like an old man now. Like,
yes.
I don't like the new music. I'm like, the new music is terrible. And then I sound like that. So his point was on key. And I think every generation really has this connection to an experience that's never going to, that maybe the best years of your life. So they're never going to disappear. Like I can hear, I listen to music all day, every day. Like right now, I'm not playing it but I'm usually music is playing. So, but like there's certain songs, that's going to bring you back and just that you have a connection to. So even though I know there's great artists and new musicians that are creative, it is different. But I have an open mind. I want to have an open mind. I think it's healthy. I don't think being negative having a negative energy towards something just because you don't feel it is important anymore. And I'm very grateful to have that growth, that mental growth, and right now in my life.
But I think it's also interesting that also my kids, they listen to a lot of the old stuff. I mean, they listen to the new, but they also know the old stuff. So they don't resignated just to listen to the new. But yeah, it's just good to go with the flow, to just adapt, because you cannot change it anyway. So
and at the same time, the interesting thing is that we come from a culture of interactions and social gatherings. It's like that is not happening. Like these kids that are training now around the world, they're little kids. They're not going to a party. They're not, they're so young now that their mentality is not socially interactive in a sense. It's very competitive, and that's okay. But this is the difference,
it's a big difference.
So there's countries that people aren't going to Sweet 16s and, and it's just a different time period, right? So think about that. Now, the thing is, you can't recreate that and push that on people. Say, yo, you got to go to a jam. You have to, because then it becomes generic. It's like, it's premeditated. It's like you're forcing people to dance with each other. You know what I mean? When it was organic for us to just be like, the song is like, yo, man, start chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like, it was,
it's different. It is different.
It was a theme.
Social media.
Music created the dance. So, if it was the Patty Duke or the bump or the hustle, that's what is that now in the world? Is there clubs that have new dances? And are people dancing with each other or just by themselves? That's the question. That's the question.
Yeah. But you must also feel, because I feel it like that here in Sweden, but we
Mhm.
started way later than you guys. But you must still have the feeling that I was with it from the beginning. I know the foundation. I was there. And maybe also partly because of me, this culture exists. It's a great feeling inside of you that,
It's a blessing.
yeah.
Yeah. I never imagined this, bro. Trust me.
No.
I never imagined this shit. Right now, to be here is just what a life. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
complain. And I feel a responsibility also, so that's why I'm receptive to the community and I want to be there as long as I
Yeah.
can.
If you now think back, if you would not have founded this back when you were a kid, do you know? And also, if the culture did not evolve, if it was never moved out from New York, it would have maybe played out and died. Do you have a thoughts what you have done instead? What?
Oh man, I thought about this question, and these, I can eat like. There's times when I avoid questions and I just say, pass. Like I could do that. But no, the thing about it, realistically, I was talking to my girl about this, and I was like, if I would have, if this shit wouldn't have became what it became, I probably would be dead. Probably would have died in the streets.
I said that too to me,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, because I was
25 years
going, I
ago.
was going on a fucking crazy path, bro.
Yeah,
Either dead or in jail, and that's the worst shit in the world.
yeah, yeah. And
People know. I don't like to talk about it, but people know around my block, and I have no shame in my game. Everything that happened to me was for a reason,
mm,
and all of that happened
yeah, yeah,
for me to be here today.
yeah,
So,
uh,
hey, we're humans, right? We all
yeah,
make mistakes and
yeah, yeah.
bad
Al-
decisions, and I made
Yeah.
a lot,
Also with
so
friends, it's always. But do you remember that you had sometimes like a visualization, or what do you say, like a strike from above, that this is actually my life now. This is what I'm gonna do.
mhm,
This is my decision.
mhm.
Or was it just that you flow into it after the whole Rocksteady thing? Or was it like a decision sometime that now this is really my life?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Like there was a moment, like so. And then when the 90s popped off again, what I'm saying? When I started trying to practice again, I felt like I sucked and I felt heavy. I was going to the gym, I was lifting weights. At that time, I was working a 9 to 5 job, wearing a suit 5 days a week, getting on a subway train, 9 to 5, stressed the fuck out, what I'm saying, hating life. But I was getting an income. I got married at the time. I was a family man. I had my firstborn. And but then when we connected again, like I told you earlier, you know, I felt like something was missing, I immediately, after a couple of things that I went to, I was like, man, move on, bro. This shit is over for you, man. This B-boy shit is over. Because I felt kind of whack. I seen some younger cats, I remember seeing Quick Step and Maurizio, what I'm saying, in the party in 90. And I was like, these motherfuckers are spinning on their head like there's no tomorrow. And then Maurizio was a firecracker, bro. And I
Yeah.
just felt whack. And everybody was after that. I remember we did a performance. It's on tape. Video Music Box kind of take part of it from this party, Wildstyle reunion or something. And all my friends would be like, yo, who them dudes? And did a show, little performance, and nobody was saying, yo, you killed it. They was just like, yo, the motherfucker. They were talking about them. And I was like, damn, I felt whack. I was like, my ego was shot. I was like, damn it. But there was something there that said, I I let it pass, and then I kept on giving it a shot and started training more, and I was like, man, you're good at this shit,
Yeah.
don't
It
something
put a
clicked there.
spark to you.
No, it kind of did, because I was like, I can't do a lot of what motherfuckers is doing now, excuse my language, but I could break and I got style,
Yeah.
and I love this music. And then it started bubbling. Now the one thing that's more of a strike to me, and I'll never forget it, is I was struggling, man, to try to, like now, like I left, I was working for WNET in New York City. I was working for broadcast operations department at a television station. You know, and you know, we would get more opportunities with get original and rhythm technicians, Rocksteady. So, and one of the people that were managing us was also a producer at WNET. I left, my job expired at that through technology, like they had to get rid of me. So that was the last job I had, quote unquote, they call it a real job, you know, because how is breaking a real job? So then I put my time and energy into breaking. So I tried to do better business because we had been exploited so much in the 80s. I didn't want to get shitted on no more. I didn't want to get jerked. And I was trying to really be professional. This is when fax machines were there, you get your business card. I was
Yeah.
trying to start Kensworth Productions. And I wasn't just good. I wasn't good at that. Like I was good at breaking. And the more I put my mind to that, my breaking kind of wasn't, so I learned that you can't do both. You got to really, and I wasn't good at that and I accepted it, but I was struggling, Andreas. I was struggling hard and I had young kids and I was, getting jerked. And then the whole shit with Rocksteady started getting sticky. Motherfuckers getting greedy with money and shit. And I was struggling really, really hard going to trips and people weren't paying me, traveling, coming back,
Yeah.
and then getting into fights in my relationship because I was being told to get a real job. I mean, I'm sure B-boys and B-girls around the world may have heard these in their own
Yeah. I
lives
mean,
because
just
of
to be
your
famous
choices.
is in the culture
Yeah.
doesn't get you rich. I mean,
So what happened was there was a time, I think it was mid 90s, and I remember I was with my mom in her apartment and I was like, I was just something hit me and I was like, bro, everything's gonna be fine, man. Do this, man. This is what you do. And I took something hit me where I just took the stress off, and I was like, bro, just do your art. And stuck my teeth into it so hard, and just got into it. So I got really good. I got better, and I think that resonated to the community, and the community was saying,
this
I
guy,
want to meet
he's
this
for real.
guy, Kenny. I want to meet him. I want to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just let it go because I think I was trying so hard to make money that I was fucking everything up. And
Yeah.
I was just like, because I didn't have that expertise. And this is around that kind of curve where I, considered management. And that was the big change. The shift was, a good partner of mine, Dante, you know, years later, he was like, yo, I got people that could handle your legal shit. I could, and when the management team came together, just a small team, I was able to focus on my art and not worry. And last, so I don't keep talking, my girl Yaro also fly. She I worked with her in New York City with Seven Gems. She's a multi-talented, you know, master of art, and she road managed and did tons of stuff with us. And she's my best friend, and she would always say to me, "Ken," because there were times when I would still struggle, and I was like, "Man," and and this is early, years back, and I said, "Man, I think I need to get a real job." And she said, "Kenny, what you don't understand is you have a real
Yeah, you
job."
have a real job. Yeah.
She said, "You have the job that everybody wants." And I sat back and I was like, I didn't look at it that way,
No.
because of the struggle. But the freedom that I have in my art,
Yeah.
I never had that on that subway train. I never
No. No.
going
No.
almost getting into fights on the platforms with people, sweating in a
Yeah.
hot
Yeah.
summer day
Yeah.
with a suit. My life was going by so fast
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was just whizzing by me.
Yeah.
And coming back into this to have that support and trust down the
Yeah.
line,
From
it
people
helped me.
around you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it helped
Oh,
me.
oh,
It helped me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helped me a lot, man.
And now 20, 25 years later, it's you're blessed to choose
Hell
it.
yeah. I'm grateful, man. I say that word gratitude a lot, man.
Uh,
And it's
uh,
like, just I wake up every day and say thank you. Like straight up. First thing in the morning. Thank you.
I had two finishing questions here. Like, because I didn't really know what special thoughts is what special question could I say to you. So I ask you, if someone would ask you a question, that what would it be? Do you have any question for yourself that no one asked me that before, that you come up with the answer?
I read you briefed me on this quickly. Um, and I mean, I think, and I would have wanted this question, but I mean, if I would think of the question and someone would ask it to me, the unfortunate part is it would be hard for me to answer it, and it would be more about my mom, and
Mhm.
you know, because everything I believe, you know, the gift I have is from my mother.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be the question. And
Yeah, because that I actually similar question to that that I had to friends here when I do interviews here is that how does your family or how did your family and parents
mm, mhm,
looked on your chosen way of life?
yeah, mhm,
Because sometimes you can have a struggle inside your family to really do what you believe.
right, exactly.
Grow
And
up, grow up.
you just said the question. You
Yeah,
just said it, and it's like, and to answer that, from that perspective in conversation, my mom supported me 1,000%. Never second guessed or
fantastic.
questioned what I was doing. She would go to the Roxy's with me. We would go to
Wow,
club. I would go to clubs
cool.
with my mother.
Yeah.
So she always believed in me, and she really liked rocking a lot. The breaking, I used to mess shit up in the house. I would break furniture and shit a couple times and
Scratch the
hurt
floor.
myself.
Yeah.
I would hurt myself a little bit, but she never, I never had any energy. She loved it, and but she said, I like that rocking dance better, what I mean? And maybe more because it looked more like the hustle, or look like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Because
dancing with
that,
somebody, what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So, but yeah, man. My
That,
mom, I'm talking to my brother recently. I've been talking to one of my brothers, and my aunt, one of my aunts, Patty,
mm,
and
mm,
I'm doing more research on my mother and my grandmother, so I'm really trying to the Puerto Rican experience. They were both
yeah,
born in Puerto Rico, and I wanted my grandmother was an artist. She was a singer in Puerto Rico when she was young, and I'm trying to get more insight on that. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of those conversations with my mother because I was living my life
yeah.
running free, and then my mother got really sick and passed away. So,
Mm. Yeah, it's the heritage. I mean, you to
yep,
know your future. I mean, this is also partly why I do this. It's like all of our stories. Your
exactly.
stories is well preserved without me, but a lot of other persons that I talk to, their story, no one have asked them, and when they are away, the
Yeah,
story is away. And now
exactly.
it happens all the time. Now I see, a lot of those hip hop, culture people, they passed away, and who knows what they have in their drawers and what they have in their cupboards and what they had in their head. No one asked them, and it's just away. Their memories, their stories, the stories
Yeah, man,
needs.
that's so sad, man. Yeah. And it's like it's left up to us to really try to revisit their life experience, and
Yeah, yeah.
tomorrow's, it's cliche, but tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us. So
No, no.
this is why it's important to have,
Yeah.
dialogue and discussions and shit.
Actually, I had my dad. He wrote his own biography, yeah, biography in English, yeah,
Mhm,
and he wrote it maybe 5 years before his death.
mhm,
But he wrote it for himself. He had it on a computer, and then my sister found it out 2 weeks before his death that he
mhm,
had done it. We printed it up as a book. It's really
mhm.
thick, maybe 150 pages, and we
Excellent.
showed it. We showed it to him 2 weeks before he died, and yeah,
Amazing.
mind blowing. That
That's
and it's
great.
like, oh,
That's
my
great.
story,
Exactly.
and you need
I
to do
like
that.
that.
Yeah,
That's a great story, and it's like time doesn't wait, bro. You already see it, man. The years flew right by. So it's
yeah,
like, yeah, these are things that we that's why community is important. Like,
yeah,
look, JDL is a good friend of mine, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you know, the last few years it's just many, many people. One of my best friends, last year, two of them last year. I mean, it's just like you don't see it coming. You know what I mean?
no,
So it's just like, and I was reaching out. Like I try not to forget where I come from, you know, and a lot of those people that before all this shit was what it was, that we were there for each other.
Yeah. Grow up
So
in the hood.
yeah, you
Well,
never
anyway,
know.
I have something that I ask for people. It's like maybe you have an anecdote, you have a story, something that happened during all these years that is just so funny, that, or is just so interesting, no one know about. Because I hanged a lot with Poppin Taco when he was here in Sweden. He lived in my house for a month, and he told so many stories with Michael Jackson, about Michael Jackson. I mean, it was just funny because he knew it because he was there. And maybe you also have, different, some story that was maybe never told.
I mean, let me think. I'm trying to think in a party perspective. Uh, I don't think I've told. Well, I mean, we don't, as b-boys, we're so macho and think we the shit all the time. We never talk about, getting burned and shit. So, uh, one thing that I remember, man, I thought I was the shit, and I may have mentioned this to a few people back. 1982, maybe. A club down the block from where I live called Broadway 96. It's a spot we all went to. It's right down the block from my house, which is crazy. And Rocksteady crew, we were bubbling, but I mean that was by my block, and people went on Saturdays, and it was a club. It wasn't a hip hop club. It was a club, and I remember going in there, and we Rocksteady was doing his thing, but the Ball Busters, which was a gang from the Upper West Side, they would frequent it. It's like a mile away from the club. So, but we had our spaces in there, and I remember going, a song called this rap record. Uh, I think it was called Scorpion. It's like
Yeah,
electro
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of like
yeah,
sound.
yeah, yeah.
And circle was open. I went and tried to get in the circle. I started trying to get busy, and this dude came up to, these dudes came rolled up, and they was like, and none of my friends were there. They were kind of all scattered, and the dude, I did some dancing, and he came up to me, he took my hat off, and he rubbed it on, he threw it back at me, and I caught it,
It's like, what
and
shall
I
I
was
do
like,
now?
yo, I felt stupid, bro, and I didn't, I got caught off guard and shit, so I got burned with that
Yeah,
little move, and
that-
I was taught a lesson, and the
yeah,
guy that did it,
street
his name was
knowledge.
Crazy Crash. Rest in peace, the ball buster dude, Crazy Crash, and he was a wild dude. They were wild thugs, like they were hard. Like I tried to be a hard rock. I wasn't gangster like half them dudes, so.
No, no.
I never forget that shit. It was the dopest move. It's like took my hat off my head and
Yeah,
rubbed it on his shit and threw it back at me. And everybody's looking and I catch it. I'm like,
yeah.
what do you
And
do
then
from that
did
point? You
you
throw it
should have
at him?
went back to him. Can I use that move in the future? Can I take it? Can I use it
I
for mine?
no, he caught me off guard, man. And like I felt like if I would have did something kind of crazy, I probably would have got beat up.
Yeah,
If I
yeah,
did
yeah.
something, because I didn't have my friends, like that's why you gotta have backup, man. You gotta have your boys with you, just in case. But I ended up showing up to a club called Once a couple years later, and I was with my boy Low Rock, TML Cats, downtown Manhattan, and he rolled up, and I said, I remember that dude, and I put it on him and
Yeah,
just smashed him with breaking. They didn't know
yeah.
how to break. They didn't know how to break. I just destroyed them, just like, because like I was really aggressive because, like I said, now I have my peoples with me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so I did get revenge.
Come and look at me now.
And I was doing it.
Well,
People were like, yo, the whole crowd was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, you felt stupid.
so what's up now for the future here? The next what do you have planned for the rest of the year? Do you have anything planned? Are you traveling
Absolutely.
or?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some cool things happening. Like I'm doing a lot of, so I really cut down on traveling a lot since the last few years
Mm,
because of my injuries and just to heal,
mm,
which kind of sucks because, this is my lifestyle, is how I pay my bills. But I resorted last year to trying to structure this one class a month or appearance a month thing throughout the year. Isn't that lucrative? But it's good for my body because it was a lot. I was doing so much travel. I was wearing myself out, man. And I was just like really, my immune system, everything last couple of years, I had a few experiences. Just like I was training really hard, great diet, but then traveling and then time zones, and I felt it kind of affecting me. So I said, I want to make a change, right? So now the last couple of years was interesting. I was signed with Monster Energy for a minute and had a great experience with them. And then, been at UCLA doing the semesters, the spring semesters and so forth. But last year, with a blessing, Red Bull signed me as a cultural ambassador. So I'm contracted with Red Bull right now. And a lot of my year is based on that educational, cultural work with them as an ambassador. So I'm not a BC1 kind of athlete or anything.
No, but you help them, or
yeah.
you
And,
work
I've
together.
worked with Red Bull. I've worked with Red Bull from their first operations in the US back in Seattle many, many years ago. So I've always had a relationship with them, but I was never signed. So they signed me, which I'm very, I'm grateful for that. And it's cool opportunities to link up with a lot of the superheroes,
yes,
that I respect.
the flying guys.
No, I respect. Look, don't matter, man. I'm not a hater, but and I have my opinions, but it's a great opportunity. But because I'm on not having that much this year, now I'm sinking my teeth into a lot of my editing. I've downloaded over 160 tapes of all media, and I'm going through that whenever I can, doing a database of like 35 to 40 years of any VHS to 8mm to high 8 to digital to everything.
Of your
And
stuff.
I'm excited. And we all transferred everything I own to a few different hard drives, to where
this is good. This is also something that we do here now. We put everything into an archive,
there you
because
go.
like you've seen, I mean, in if we're gone, who will take care of it if it's just in a drawer, old VHS tape? I mean,
Yeah, and the tapes where, like, I got a lot of tapes from one of my close friends that he didn't really understand how, because I used to work in a tape library back when I was first breaking still, but I learned how to store tapes and how air and everything affects the actual tape itself. So I was thinking about
sometimes
it.
you only have one take. You only have one take on those old tapes, because then it's ruined. You need to
Yeah,
get it
it could.
the first time.
Yeah, and if you store them, they degenerate. They just kind of crush if you put them on their side. So yeah, that's something that I'm doing now. Doing a lot of just catching up with work that when I was traveling all the time I couldn't do. So I'm excited about that, and and then I'm here in LA. Zulu Gremlin, my good brother, he lives near me. He's out there moving and grooving, and sometimes we link up, and I have the space here, so I tell people whenever anybody's in town, come through. So I can't complain, and that's the future, is just really trying to take advantage of the day and get work done, and the fun work, because I was watching footage the other night, bro. I almost started crying, bro. That shit was heavy. It was heavy. I was like, holy shit. And to see people that are no longer with us, all that shit is like crazy. But I think it's something good for the next generations, to something that can exist for people to have an archive too,
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks a lot, Kenny.
Of course, man, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, I wish we would be closer, then I can come and give you a hug and a big high five,
No doubt. Yeah.